So the second example, personal example that I'm using today is staying sober, funnily enough. So I'm a recovering addict, alcoholic. It's no secret, I use it in my work a lot. And I've had to work a very rigorous recovery process in order to be able to stay sober and ultimately to be able to shift my behavior over time, to be able to live life on life's terms. Now, in the last week, the whole construct, the whole way in which I work my program has been completely turned on its head. The most prevalent example is that I can no longer attend group meetings because they're a risk. And group meetings for me, seeing other people who suffer the similar kind of challenges that I do, is an absolutely vital step in maintaining a daily reprieve and a sobriety in life and being able to feel comfortable in sobriety. So in that situation, I've also had to spot the times in this week where I've started to show up with this fixed, limited mindset where I've said things like, oh, well now, I can't do my meetings, so my recovery is stuffed. Those kinds of statements which are vital to spot, because that's the very beginning of the regression into old ways of thinking and being that ultimately culminate in me saying, screw it. What's the point? I might as well smoke a joint. I might as well find a way to numb myself from the situation. So the first step for me has been to spot when and where I've been thinking in these ways. The second step has been for me to list the possibilities and the options around gaining recovery without worrying about the fact that things have changed. So in my case, I've looked at online meetings, and there are, funnily enough, a whole lot of online meetings that have popped up over the last week. And yes, it feels odd and disconnected initially, but they are definitely an option. Then I've looked at things like, how am I keeping in touch with people who I can't see physically, like my sponsor, using technology in clever ways. So I've been having online Zoom meetings with my sponsor. And then there are a whole lot of other areas where I've looked at the options I have to reinforce the principles of recovery in my own home. So consciously what I've done is I've made my home a place of recovery. And I've looked at recovery beyond just my own need to stay sober and to be a productive member of society, but I've looked at the fact that my family is recovering. And we will be, over time, finding reasons to have to learn to recover from the frustrations, from the limitations, from the fears that we might have during this time. So I've looked at our home and I've consciously made it a place of recovery where I can apply the principles not only on my own but with my wife and my children. Made it very real. And then after the options, again, I've accepted that challenge. And every time I find myself thinking in that fixed mindset way, I bring myself to step 3 and I say, I accept the challenge. It might be hard, it might be frustrating, it might be uncomfortable, but I accept it. And every time I reinforce that, I'm more likely to course correct into a more growth mindset response. And then the final step is practice, refine, experiment. I've done a lot of that over this week. I've had to look at, okay, so which meetings am I going to go to online? I need to practice how to speak on the online format. I need to learn not to make unnecessary noises when other people are speaking because it disrupts the message. There are a lot of things that I've had to learn and practice in terms of how to run those meetings online effectively. Then I've also experimented with other things. So the example of the experiment is I'm including my family in this idea of, well, this is what I've learned in recovery for myself. So how are we using some of these principles and ideas for us all to deal with challenges? So it's been an extremely rewarding process to go through, hard but rewarding. And the 4 steps that I've mentioned now definitely have helped me to guide myself to being much more growthful in my response to the challenges around my own recovery.